Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and of course, tonight we are joined by a couple of awesome dudes, I shall say tonight, that's joining me tonight on Sports Minute. That's right, you're seeing Isaiah once again on another episode of Sports Minute because Isaiah is now pretty much a staple on Sports Minute. You know, he's filling in currently why J-Mac is away. So welcome in, Isaiah. So, Isaiah, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. It's so hot right here where I'm at in the Bay Area. I don't know why it's like this. I mean, it's mid-October and it's like 85 degrees. So global warming is real, folks. But other than that, doing well. You know, before the show, the reason why I was like late onto jumping onto our program tonight was because I had to go run to my nearby McDonald's and cash in on my coupon for a free cup of coffee. So I did that right before the buzzer went out. So here we are, ready to rock.
Gotta have that coffee, man. Gotta have that coffee. And I'll tell you what, I am ecstatic tonight. I'm super pumped. It's been a freaking fantastic day to go along the whole time. I'm super excited about all three of my teams today. All three of my teams so far today picked up the victory. And no, I'm not talking about like Isaiah to where he talks about like his three different college teams. No, I'm talking about my three teams in the various sports. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you know, my three teams that won. My college football team won. The Badgers won. They won a close game. It was 20-14. They pulled off the victory. My Detroit Red Wings got the victory. We won 3-1. And then, of course, you have the Atlanta Braves tonight who pulled off the first Game 1 victory against the LA Dodgers. I'm super stoked about that one. I'm just glad that, you know, we were not going to get swept. So, anyway, welcome into Sports Minute. Crispy Bacon, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad to be on. And, yeah, it was a good day for your teams. Unfortunately, some of my teams did not win, but can't win them all.
The only way that this would get better is if I was able to this would get better if Green Bay wins tomorrow and Atlanta Braves win Game 2 tomorrow. That's how my weekend would be complete because it'd be a clean sweep on the weekend. So welcome in Mr. Brandon Herrera, who's saying MVP Will Smith, MVP Will Smith. Absolutely not. I will get to that in a minute. Christy Wilson saying hi guys. And then Keaton Slovis is saying hi guys. So how's it going, Keaton Slovis? How is it going? Interesting.
If it's really Keaton Slovis, the real quarterback of USC, I mean, that would be a heck of a viewer that we just got. So
yeah,
if it's really you, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, if that's really you, that's awesome. So welcome in. And then of course, Brandon Herrera saying, well, last night Christopher Mabry called for a Dodgers sweep. If you did that, Chris,
I think
did you really call for a Dodgers sweep?
I know I called for a sweep. I have to go back. Maybe I did.
Oh, man, you disappointed me, man. You disappointed me.
I know last night I said for a Brave sweep.
Okay, well, this is the one thing I did say, though. And Isaiah, if you remember when we did our MLB Palooza, okay, let me tell you this, and let you know that is the real Slovis. So that is awesome. So thank you,
wow.
Slovis, for checking this out. That is major, my man. Well, guess what? We've actually talked about USC on this program quite a few times. So welcome aboard, Mr. Slovis.
Not really good things to say, though. It hasn't been a pleasant discussion when we're talking about them.
You know what? That's all right. But anyways, yeah. Ishmael, how's it going tonight? He says, wow, you guys really got the USC quarterback to tune in. Absolutely, absolutely. So Keaton, if you can go out there and tell all of your friends about it, all your teammates, have them come on and check us out. If you guys want to hop on for like an interview at any point, reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out, and we will get you to come on Sports Minute, and you can interview. We'll love to ask you questions. All right. So with that, anyways, I'm pumped. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this first, okay? We're going to talk about that game one between the Atlanta Braves and LA Dodgers, all right? And Isaiah, when we did our MLB Palooza, when we started out, you heard me say I didn't even know if we were going to get past the Brewers in the first round. I came out and said it. I said it'll probably go 5, but I don't know if we'll get past them because of pitching. We were able to get past them. We actually got past them in 4. Played excellent. Okay, played excellent in the first round. Now we're in the NLCS. This is a whole nother animal here. We're playing the Dodgers now. They have great pitching as well. Last year, we were up 3-1, had a great lead. Dodgers were able to come back and take it. This year, we're definitely not the same team, and I'm not saying we're better because I don't think we are, because we are banged up. We have a lot of injuries right now. Jorge Soler is actually out because of COVID, but I'm still pumped about the series, especially game 1. Max Fried played great, pitched 6 innings, 2 runs, struck out 5. I was hoping that they would let him go a little bit farther, but the bullpen came in, pitched rather well. And I know Brandon is talking about the whole Will Smith thing. But here's the thing about Will Smith, all right? Yeah, he got the first 2 outs, and then he allowed a base hit. And then what happened? That's right. The next guy was going to get a base hit again, and then Taylor got a really bad base running error. Bad base running error. And he looked like he was going to run to third. He stopped halfway between second and third, and he got in a rundown, and Dansby Swanson was able to tag him out. So who would have known what would have happened? Because you know who was on deck? You know who was? Mookie Betts was on deck. And we don't know what would have happened if Mookie Betts would have batted against Will Smith. And so completely saved by Jock Peterson and Dansby Swanson. And then, of course, in the bottom of the 9th, that's right, Freddie Freeman came up first. He struck out 4 times in this game. 4 times. That's not like Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman has barely done this throughout his whole career. Ozzie Albies comes up, gets a bloop single, and everybody knew once he got that bloop single, everybody knew Ozzie was going to steal second base. Everybody knew it. I was like, yep, he's going to steal. He steals second base. And then once he sold second base, Austin Riley was like, all I have to do is get a base hit. And we know that Riley's a power guy, and that's typically what he tries to do. But Riley's like, I don't need to go power here. I just need to focus on getting a base hit. And he did. Right down the line. Right down the line. Perfect. Game over right there. So congrats. So Isaiah, what was your thoughts on game 1 of the Braves and the Dodgers?
Well, for me, I think that it came down to, like you said, Ace, the Dodgers really shooting themselves in the foot, because in that situation, if the Dodgers, they don't get tagged out, they don't get the guy ran out of the bases, and Mookie Betts is coming up against Will Smith, who knows what would have happened in that situation. That is a big what if, because Will Smith, for some reason, he's struggled the last couple of years with the Atlanta Braves. I know he was really good with the San Francisco Giants when he was their closer, but then he struggled since coming to Atlanta. And with Mookie Betts facing Will Smith, I would take my chances if I'm a Dodgers fan with Mookie Betts all day, every day. So I felt like it was the Dodgers had this game in the bag. They just gave this game to the Atlanta Braves. But you got to give the Braves a lot of credit, though, for taking advantage of the Dodgers' mistakes.
Absolutely. Chris, what was your thoughts?
Man, I tuned in a little late, but it was 2-2, and I thought, are the Braves going to pull out a win? They did. And, it was a close game, but they pulled it off.
Absolutely. And so, Chris, if you predicted a sweep, I'm sorry, my man, the sweep didn't happen. But let's not forget, though, we had game 2 today also of the Red Sox and the Astros. The Red Sox had 2 grand slams in the first 2 innings of the game. That's almost unheard of. That's something that you just don't see. They took an 8-0 lead right off the bat. The final score, I believe, was 9-5, if I remember right. So the Astros were getting themselves back in the game. Here's the thing. I don't know if you guys happen to see the meme that was going on out there about the ALCS that people were talking about. And I'm like, that was kind of ridiculous. Like, people are going out there now saying the ALCS should be called the Cheaters Series because it's got the Red Sox and the Astros. And so I'm like,
I saw that.
What? Yeah, so I'm like looking at this year going, what's the point of playing then in the World Series? Because let's say, whatever National League team makes it to the World Series, if the American League team wins, then everyone's going to complain and be like, oh, that team cheated. Regardless if it was the Red Sox or Astros that win it, somebody's going to complain and say, investigate them because it happened, because they cheated or whatever. I'm over it, man. I'm over it. It's been years ago. It happened years and years ago. It's time to move past it. So it's not the Cheater Series. I'm just telling you. It's killing baseball because people want to keep going on about this.
Well, and then you watch like either, like SportsCenter or the opens to these games. You're like, I forgot how long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, these 2 teams cheated and all this stuff. And that's all they lead into with these games is, oh, the Astros cheated, but the Red Sox were involved in it. But, managers and stuff were fired, or let go, suspended, whatever. That's all they lead into.
No, but trust me, I'm just saying, I have a ton of people on my friends list that are baseball fans, and all they've done since the Astros made the ALCS, people just been blowing them up like crazy, going, investigate them because I know they're cheating again. They have to be cheating again. And I'm like, okay, this is just crazy. But anyway, let's talk a little bit of college football here, shall we say, because there was some good college football today. How about Iowa, the number 2 ranked team, getting knocked off by Purdue?
Yeah,
let me tell you this: Purdue owns Iowa. I don't know what it is, but Iowa can't beat them. But welcome in Callan. Callan is watching now. He's saying that's right. Isaiah will be the first to whine and complain if the AL representative wins the World Series. So anything to say on that, Isaiah?
Well, I don't think that's just for the AL side of things in the World Series. I mean, I think that you could say that for football and also basketball as well. I mean, even Ace and Chris probably knows. And I've even said some stuff in our MI6C2C group chat that when things haven't gone my way, I just blame it on the refs. I blame it on corruption. I blame it on
exactly.
Wig.
Exactly. You're going to complain. And I'll tell you, the ultimate insult, Chris, and I'm not going to lie, the ultimate insult to Isaiah would be if the Atlanta Braves happen to win the World Series. That would be the ultimate insult to Isaiah, because then I could give so much crap to Isaiah if that happened. To him, he would be like, wow, the ultimate. But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into that Purdue and Iowa, man. That is freaking I don't understand it. Like, Iowa, for some reason, cannot beat Purdue. But Isaiah, what was your thoughts on this Purdue and Iowa game?
My thought was, I told you so. That was my thoughts on this game, because I had a friend who's a part of the MI6 Sports Network. His name is Shri Anand. And Shri, I'm sorry for throwing you under the bus, but I got to do this because you ran your mouth this entire week about how Iowa is the best team in college football. It's not Georgia because Georgia played a weak schedule and Iowa's played all these great teams and blah, 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 blah. And I kept telling you, Georgia is the real best team in college football, because if you look at all the teams they play, yes, all these teams that they played might have been ranked really high when they played them, but now they've dropped really low. But first of all, Georgia can't control that. Secondly, you play who is on your schedule, and I kept telling you that Iowa was gonna blow it. They were gonna lose to one of these teams that you didn't expect them to lose to, and here we are. They lose to Purdue. I'm not shocked at all that they lost this game because Iowa has always been a team that has always been a great defensive team, but their offense is predicated on having a successful run game. And when they cannot run the football, they can't throw the football. And when you can't throw the football and your defense is giving up lots and lots of yards and lots of points, and you're having to play catch up, and you need that passing game to come to life, and you can't because your passing game just has struggled all season long. That's why you're going to lose these football games, and that's why Iowa. I've been saying this for years for years, and for this entire season, when everybody was gloating about how they're so good, that Iowa is a total pretender, and I do not believe in them whatsoever. I'm not shocked that they lost to Purdue, like you said, Ace, that Purdue always owns Iowa, no matter if they're playing in Purdue or if they're playing in Iowa. But, I mean, Iowa's like the San Francisco Giants of college football. They had a great start to the season, but you kind of knew in the back of your head that, yeah, this team just was on a magical run, and it's not going to last, and they're not a for real team in that sport. So I'm not surprised that Iowa lost.
Okay, so when you look at the Purdue side of things, right? So I'm going to tell you this. They could not stop David Bell, the wide receiver for Purdue. Come on, man. He had 11 catches for 240 yards. Like David Bell and Aiden O'Connell were just carving up the defense for Iowa. And Iowa is supposed to have one of the best defenses in college football, and they could not be stopped. They were just absolutely carving up. But we know that Iowa's not known for offense. We know that. And so if you're able to slow them down, if you're able to like carve up their defense, you're going to beat Iowa. And that's what happened to Purdue, because Iowa's a team that's not going to be able to match point for point with virtually anybody. And they showed that today. To me, though, it was a little bit of a shock. Isaiah, you're saying I told you so, but for me, it was definitely a shock.
Well, Ace, I also want to add something before you give the floor to Chris, and that is, I think Iowa reminds me of a little bit of Wisconsin. You know, a great defensive team. I'm not trying to throw your team under the bus, Ace, but they really remind me of Wisconsin in the way that they're really good at defense, but their offense is predicated on running the football. And when you shut down the running game, they don't have a passing game to combat you shutting down the running game. And when, let's say, the opponent is up like 14 on them, it's pretty much game over because they just don't have that elite passing game to be able to catch up and to be able to go toe-to-toe with some of these top teams. So I really liken them to Wisconsin a lot.
You know what? And there's nothing wrong with doing that because Wisconsin's definitely they are running back U. That's what I call them. I call them running back U because that's what Wisconsin is known for. They're definitely not known for quarterbacks, I can tell you that. So that's like our biggest problem with Wisconsin is that if we get behind in a game, we can't really catch up because we don't have the offense to do that. And that's just like Iowa. Iowa has such a good defense that if they get behind, though, they can't catch up because they don't have a strong enough offense. But, Chris, go ahead. Yeah. I'm going to go to you. What's your thoughts on Purdue and Iowa?
No, I think we all knew that Iowa wasn't really going to win this game. Purdue got like over 300 yards passing. And what kind of surprised me is, you know, like I said, we knew Iowa was going to win this, but they only got 7 points out of the whole game, and it came in the fourth quarter. Maybe they could have had a little, you know, better fight, so to speak. They could have added more points, but they kind of struggled, and it was just not a good day for them.
No, but we know how this top four is going to go again, right? It's going to be shuffled around again, even though we know certain teams that are still going to be up there. you know that Georgia's still going to be at number 1, even though it's kind of interesting because a lot of people had Kentucky actually coming in and beating Georgia, which I don't know why, but they did. Anyway, but Georgia still won that game, so Georgia's still going to be number 1. I know Alabama's going to end up jumping into the top 4. You're just going to see it, even though there's teams behind them that are still undefeated, like Michigan. Michigan's still undefeated, but you're not going to see them leapfrog up into the top 4. So you're going to probably see Georgia. I would say Oklahoma. Cincinnati, they're going to probably go to number 2, and then you'll probably have Alabama at number 4. All right. So Isaiah, what do you see right now as top 4?
Well, I think from what I watched today, I think Georgia's unequivocally the best team right now in college football because their defense, if you guys have been watching their defense this whole entire season, their defense is on a whole other level than what other past Georgia defenses have been. Just look at the stats. This Georgia defense is putting up historically great numbers. Like, it's amazing what they're doing. I think they've, like, if I remember correctly, they have not allowed a single touchdown in the first half, or it was like a single rushing touchdown in the first half until today. And also this defense in the past, like in all their games, they've only given up 13 or less points throughout this entire season to their opponents. So what this defense is doing is amazing. And, Georgia's offense is putting up 30-plus points a game, and they're doing that with their starting quarterback out right now. I think JT Daniels, he's missed like 3 of the last 4 games, 4 of the 6 games that Georgia has played. And then they're also missing like 4 of their top wide receivers, 1 top tight end right now. So they're doing all of this with a lot of their playmakers out. So they are very talented. I have no doubt that Georgia right now is the top team in college football. I think right now, if you had to make me go on record, I would say they're my favorite right now to win the national championship. But I think it's Georgia 1. Iowa definitely is going to move out of the number 2 spot. And I think they're definitely going to probably move to like number 11 or 12 or something like that. Number 2, I think right now it's got to be Cincinnati. I think that with the way that they're playing right now, and they're not just winning games by like a small margin. They're winning games by blowing people out. So you got to definitely take notice of that. So I definitely think Cincinnati's got to be a 2. 3, I would say you put Oklahoma there because they smashed TCU tonight with their new quarterback, Caleb Williams, at the helm. And then I would say number 4, in my opinion, has got to be like I think it's a toss-up between Alabama and Ohio State. Ohio State has really looked good ever since their loss to Oregon. And Alabama's looked good, or they looked really good tonight, but they're playing Mississippi State. So you can't really – I don't know if you can really, like, measure how good they really are because Mississippi State has been really consistent. But, again, they beat Texas A&M. So I think right now it's a toss-up between Alabama and Ohio State at number 4. And I would say I would give it to Alabama just because I think the committee really favors Alabama over Ohio State.
All right. So, Chris, what do you think? Do you think what do you think the top 4 is going to be? You're on mute.
I think Georgia might be either 1 or 2 based on that win.
Georgia's going to be 1. I'm telling you. Yeah. Georgia's going to be 1. Georgia's going to stay at 1. I guess Cincinnati's going to drop to 2. I don't.
That could be, yeah. That was a big win for Cincinnati. So.
How about Alabama? You think they're going to be at 3 or 4?
Maybe. I think in Alabama 4.
And then Oklahoma
4. Oklahoma at 3, yeah.
Even though Isaiah's saying to go ahead and put Ohio State in there at possibly in the top 4, but no.
That's a little early.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I still think it's a little too early. I don't think you can put them in the top 4 yet. But I still think that some teams that are behind Alabama and Ohio State, there's still some undefeated teams back there that actually play in pretty good conferences. So I think that they might deserve a shot in the top 4. But the next thing that I wanted to talk about, and we're actually bringing in a special guest on this one. We're actually bringing in Callan. So go ahead and pull up Callan, because we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk a little bit about the WNBA. So go ahead and welcome in Callan. How's it going?
Hi, Isaiah. Good luck with this segment. That's why I'm coming here to rescue you from self-misery and embarrassment.
All right. So as we know, Game 3 of the WNBA Finals happened yesterday, and Chicago absolutely obliterated Phoenix in Game 3. And Callan's he's repping Chicago. So Callan, go ahead and give me your thoughts on Game 3, the obliteration that Chicago put on Phoenix.
I'll tell you one thing. I was keeping tabs on the game while I was at work, and I was very much surprised, Chris and Adam, seeing about how Chicago just kind of came out guns a-blazing and kind of, punch back after that Game 2 loss in overtime, where, again, things were very testy down the stretch. Again, we had the whole debacle of Diana Taurasi shoving the referee and getting fined, and, Carolyn Peck going on record and saying, that in her mind, Carolyn Peck's one of the best, well-known, respected women's basketball coaches and announcers. And if she's saying that Taurasi had to be suspended, that just shows you, I guess, how the disparity is when it comes to player and referee, sort of situations. But for Chicago, though, I mean, I have a friend, guys, who has been a Sky season ticket holder for basically since the club came in 2008 or 09. And just seeing his pictures, seeing his videos, this is the first true time I feel like, though, that Chicago has fully embraced the WNBA and that franchise. Especially, though, when you get Candace Parker coming back home after spending her entire career in Los Angeles, maybe some infighting in that organization. And, guys, the script right now, the script that we have right now, hometown kid, grew up watching the Bulls in the 90s, went to Tennessee, household name. Even Isaiah knows who Candace Parker is, if you can believe that. And here, though, she goes to L.A., has all the success there, wins the title in 2016, leaves that franchise behind, comes back home, and basically is the reason why this franchise in Chicago has, I think, turned the city on their head and now sitting a win away from their first title, but also first one in club history. And it's the hometown kid and kids, for that matter, both Parker and Quigley, being the big reason why. And please, I mean, even though I'd love to see like Candace or Sloot or Quigley win Finals MVP, Kalia frickin' Copper has got to be the Finals MVP. Even though Isaiah thought it was Allison Cooper yesterday for some reason in our group chat, but certainly she has been on a absolute another level this season. And someone else, I think, guys, said it right though, that and I can probably vouch for this though about seeing how well though that we have seen the women's college game, fellas, be so loved and appreciated, like with UConn and stuff like that, but that the support for those players kind of stops after their college days, because like South Carolina, Stanford, what have you. And someone had a great point. Here Kalia Copper, guys, played for one of the other goats of college basketball coaching on the women's side, and C. Vivian Stringer. And there's no support, or there has not been a lot of support, but that she's putting Rutgers back on the map, though. But in the whole series, though, or at least yesterday, this is a game, though, guys, where I think, though, that if you're Chicago, you hope that you can somewhat capture lightning back in the bottle, because damn well that Griner's not going to struggle again. Taurasi for damn sure is not going to struggle in back-to-back games, though. But also for that being the largest margin of victory for a finals game, I was impressed. But also I think that the whole Chicago team, though, has probably been a very nice surprise, a great feel-good story. Here they are, the 6 seed or 5 seed getting in, And here it's, 5-6, playing for the title with how this new format has worked out, though. And I think that the new format has been great, though, because you've been kind of seeing new faces come in, like Chicago this year. You had Los Angeles get there in 2016. You still have the dynasty of the Lynx at one point, but that the format has been great, though. But at least, though, in this series, though, guys, where again, you have two teams probably not favored to be there. You had Seattle, you had Las Vegas, you had Connecticut, who basically, stomped their way into the postseason and were upset by Chicago. That, there's so many fresh faces out there right now in the league, but also like some of these like undernamed players like Kalia Copper, even for those of us who know about Quigley or Vandersloot, of course, Candace Parker. Yeah, we have Tarasi and Griner, but that, kind of seem like these under the radar players like Copper and Azura Stevens and Shea Petey being able to play on the big stage is such a very refreshing thing, though. But certainly, I hope Chicago closes out at home in game 4. But if I've learned anything, guys, in my 10 plus years of watching women's hoops, you never count out Diana Taurasi in a winner go home ball game. And I'm sure she's not going to be having another night like she did on Friday, nor is Griner, nor is Diggins Smith, and that Phoenix is going to bounce back in some capacity. But if you're Chicago, you got to feed off that crowd. Bears players have been there, believe it or not. Bulls players have been there. White Sox players, the whole city has come out to embrace them. I think it's just tremendous. I know that some of my friends who are women's basketball fans don't really like seeing, all the publicity about, oh, the NBA guys are here, the NFL guys are here. At the same time, much like San Diego, when you see that team finally having success and the whole city gets behind them, how can you not love it? So again, I'm hoping for Chicago, but again, never, ever count out Diana Taurasi, though, in a win-or-go-home situation.
Yeah, which was actually going to be my next question, because from the way Chicago played yesterday, I'm looking at Phoenix thinking these guys are probably done. Like, that's my first initial thought. Like, are they going to be able to bounce back after that shellacking that they took from Chicago? Because they looked so deflated in that game. So that was going to be my next question for you, Callan, was do you feel like Phoenix, like their win is out of their sails, like they're done?
Ace, it's a valid question, and I kind of lean that way. I don't put all the eggs in the basket. I don't declare like Lee Young that it's over after 2 games or a 3-game, or 3 games. But I'm leaning that way. But I think there was a valid point, though, brought up via the WNBA Twitter fan base on Friday. Chicago was able to pull their starters out and rest them because of how lopsided the scoreline was. The Mercury have not been able to do that. And also, Phoenix had to go through a 5-game series to get to the finals after knocking out Vegas on the road, nonetheless, at Michelob Ultra Arena. So certainly the fatigue factor, I believe, is setting in, and especially on a body like Taurasi, who has all that mileage on that body from UConn and from Phoenix and all the overseas games and the Olympics. And yes, and probably, like I said, you can't count Taurasi out in a win-or-go-home game. But I think, though, with the freshness of Chicago's lineup after they had a chance to sit them out for essentially the last, half of that ball game or a good part of that ball game, and that the Mercury have been basically, running and gunning, and they've been basically, they've been basically going full speed ahead from game 5 into game 1, game 2. Yeah, they won game 2, obviously, to split the series, though. But I think, though, as well, and plus, though they'll never say it, though, I think the crowd does play a factor. I think especially in basketball, that maybe in my mind, again, I don't want to talk down on football, but to me, it just feels like, though, that playoff basketball and playoff hockey, the crowd has more of an impact on, in a good way or a bad way, on one team or both teams in general. But certainly, I think, though, Adam, to your point, though, I'm leaning a bit more towards, to your point, that I think that the Mercury's luck has finally ran out. I know, of course, that you can't, bet against Taurasi, but with the fatigue factor and the fact that Chicago had, got a chance to rest their healthy, rest their starters, where Parker and Stevens, Copper, Vandersloot and Quigley, they're all going to be basically, very fresh because they basically played, 1/2 plus of basketball. Where again, the Mercury, I just think that kind of like in a way their luck has ran out. But also one other thing, though, guys, Kia Nurse not being able to be a part of the Merc run because of her torn ACL has also, I think, hampered the Merc's depth a little bit. And again, I just don't know, though, how this team can respond. But once more, just to beat the dead horse, you can't count out Diana Taurasi in a win or go home situation. You just can't do it.
All right, so Jared, before I get to your question, I'm gonna let Isaiah counter on this if he has anything that he wants to add to what Callan just said. So Isaiah, what do you think? You taking Phoenix or you taking Chicago?
Well,
I'm
I'm
waiting.
going to take Chicago just because yesterday was so lopsided. I know Callan said not to count out Diana Taurasi, but I watched like the second half of that game, and it wasn't even close. I watched the second half yesterday because it was either that game or I don't think there was anything else. But so I watched that game, and I liked Cooper. How she played. She was terrific from the perimeter. She was terrific driving the ball. And I'm glad that she's finally getting this big stage to shine because she's a really good talent. And I loved watching her play yesterday.
All right. Well, number one, it's Kalia Copper. But anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna get to Jared's question. Yes, this is open forum night, and then Christy, we will get to yours too in a minute. But so Callan,
why did you go to me?
So Callan, this question is actually for you. Do you see Sabrina winning a title in New York in the next couple of seasons?
I think they turned a huge corner, Jared, just to kind of address you directly. I think they turned a corner. I think Walt Hopkins showed he's a competent head coach. But Nyjah Laney was an animal this year. I mean, she had a great year overseas, and I think could have perhaps won like most improved player or some sort of award this season. Maybe 6th woman of the year, though. Obviously, that went to Kelsey Plum. Standing aboard and raised, I might want to add about that playing for Vegas. But they're probably still a little bit away. I think maybe another year or two, perhaps. But I think that Ionescu, she's an absolute animal. She's great. I think, though, that they probably found the right coach finally in New York, though, with Walt Hopkins. But I still want to see, though, if they can perhaps build around her. I know it's like the big thing, though, about these number one picks, though. Then we really haven't seen like a number one pick, I think, really flourish in a while since maybe Candace or Brittany Griner in 2014, when, of course, the Mercury had that 29-win season and tore the entire league to shreds that season. And that there's been some top picks, though, who have not really, I think, lived up to the hyper expectations, sadly. I think in any sport, though, but I think to Jared's point, though, I think that Sabrina's going to win one. It's just a matter of time, though, and more so a matter of when, because the East, I still think, though they don't do it like the NBA where they do, 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3 in the conference, where basically like this season they got in because teams lost. LA had lost and someone else had lost, which gave Dallas and New York the final playoff spots, where again they don't care about conference. They basically go 1 through 8 regardless of conference, and they got knocked out by Phoenix in a winner take all game, where again Taurasi, to my points earlier, but Sabrina is that face of that franchise. And I think that certainly that the Liberty franchise, and I also think, though, guys, with the Liberty no longer being strapped to the back of James Dolan and now being owned by Joe Tsai and playing in Brooklyn, that someone in a way like maybe the franchise can breathe a sigh of relief and they're not being micromanaged, or they're being cheaply run as it has been, or probably how it had been under the Dolan leadership, though, post their 2015 run to the conference final when they got beat by the Fever in 5 games. But certainly they've turned a corner. Joe Tsai cares about the league. He cares about the team and their success. But to Jared's point, I see it happening as long as New York keeps this upward trajectory of developing talent and getting bodies around Sabrina at this rate.
All right. And then Christy Wilson says also Diana had to go back to Phoenix to be there for the birth of her and Penny Taylor's daughter. So I'm pretty sure, I think I remember hearing about that. And then, of course, Jared saying, what is our thoughts on the Cardinals firing their manager? This actually threw me off. After like 17 consecutive wins, making the postseason, and I know you come basically within an inning of beating the Dodgers and knocking them out, and then they fire their manager. But they said it was because they were kind of felt like they were going different directions. The manager wanted something different. So Mike wanted something different, but the GM and the owner wanted something else. But Isaiah, I'll start out with you on this one first, and then I'll go to Cal and then Chris. So Isaiah, what was your thoughts on the Cardinals firing Mike Schilt?
I was absolutely stunned by it. I woke up, grabbed my phone to try to check out like the latest headlines on ESPN, and I thought that Aaron Boone was going to be fired because I saw the breaking news, and I thought I saw it, I was like, oh, Aaron Boone must have been gone, and then I see it's the Cardinals firing Mike Shell, and I was like, didn't the Cardinals just win like 17 in a row, and they made the playoffs, won like 90 games, and they fell short of the Dodgers. I honestly didn't understand this move whatsoever by the Cardinals. This guy, if you look at his winning percentage and his record with the Cardinals, he never had a losing season when he replaced Mike Matheny midway through the 2018 season. So I don't really understand this firing. It certainly wasn't because he wasn't winning. That's what I can make out of this. I just don't get it, and it's another reason why a lot of people are turning away from baseball now. It's because these front offices always think they're the smartest people in the room, and they try to dictate what happens in the clubhouse and what happens, in the game, like on the field. You don't do that. Like, you have a manager that's really, really successful right now. He's never had a losing season in his time managing the St. Louis Cardinals. All the players seem to like him. And from what I gathered, I believe it was on CBS Sports HQ. They did a whole video on it. One of the execs said that, the Cardinals players specifically liked him because Mike Shildt never, ever went into the clubhouse. He felt like the clubhouse was like a private place for the players. So he would just stay in his office. He would never go into the clubhouse to really mix it up with the players. And I thought that was a really unique strategy because I don't really think a lot of managers typically do that. But having said that, it just boggles my mind. Like, I don't know why you would fire someone when he's just constantly winning and winning and winning. Like, isn't the end result of what you want in a Major League Baseball team is to win? If it's not to win, then I don't know what you're doing working in professional baseball. So this move really didn't make any sense to me. It really shocked me. I think maybe the Cardinals are trying to get like a more experienced manager like Callen's Padres are, because they maybe want a guy like, I think of this maybe as like a Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr type of a thing where Mike Shildt can only take them so far, but he can't get over the hump. And maybe they want to go out and get a Bruce Bochy or go out and get, Aaron Boone or someone to try to help take them over the hump. That's the only reason I could think of the Cardinals firing Mike Shildt. But other than that, I just don't understand this move. I don't think like any of us will probably understand this move for the next like 5 to 10 years. It's just so stunning.
All right. So, Callen, what was your thoughts on the firing of Mike Shildt?
Absolutely dumbfounded. I was very, like Isaiah, stunned that the Cardinals would do this because, here this team, guys, had a bleak outlook on their season until they caught fire at the right time. And obviously that 17-game winning streak, and they just blew by the Padres and the Reds and everyone else for that last wild card spot, only to lose, though, to the Dodgers on that walk-off homer by Chris Taylor. But certainly, I think, though, Isaiah is right, though. Not so much about people turning away from the game, though, but why I think we see so many managers being fired or released from their duties because they clash with the GM and clash with the front office. Case in point with the Padres, though that was also a player mutiny that's been, unearthed over the past several, weeks or so or past couple of months. But I think, though, that just sadly, though, to Isaiah's point, though, Adam and Isaiah and Chris, though, is at least from my perspective, again, having played the game and kind of, being a part and seeing, some of the stuff, not all this happened, but just, my experience, though, around the game of baseball is that, especially now, as Isaiah said, though, too much clashing of the manager and the GM, but also I think, though, too much micromanaging is being done by GMs dictating what the manager on the field does. A case in point, I think it was 2017 or 18 that I think the Dodgers, some reports came out that Andrew Friedman was actually dictating Dave Roberts to put guys in the lineup, or like, you're going to put this lineup out whether you like it or not because, numbers never lie. Taylor only does good against this pitcher or whatnot. And I think that's just, how baseball was coming. I think more so magnified, though, I think, though, fellas, in the playoffs. Because I think, as you know, though, about, the Dodgers have been running out openers for a bit. They did that in Game 5, though, with Knable and Gratterall. Then they went with Urias to close out the game, along with Jansen to close out the ball game and whatnot to beat the Giants, though, is that I think that Isaiah's right, though. The GMs, I think, feel like right now they have way too much power because they have all these PhDs and they have these MBAs and they're all like law professors and stuff and, business analytics, and stuff like this. Like they know the roost, though. At the same time, though, how many, though, truly have these guys that probably are GMs have actually put on the uniform and played the game of baseball? If I'm not mistaken, Adam, wasn't Mike Schilt one of the only rare, other than Tingler, maybe the only manager in the game who probably did not play at all at the pro level? Is that correct, or is that Snitker?
Correct. No, it's Mike, but Snitker also did it too. Snitker did not play also, and so that's why they were surprised that he actually became a manager. He was in the farm system in AAA, and then he came up to manage in the major leagues.
So, I think more so it's a mixture of it's kind of like gasoline in a fire. In a way, I think it's been more of like a yes man thing here in San Diego with AJ Preller, with Andy Green, now the fired Jace Tingler. But now I think, though, with the Cardinals canning Mike Schilt, I really don't know what the direction is going to be now for the Cardinals, because we know about the Cardinal way, do things right. But at the same time, though, this sort of thing, though, is kind of like the Cardinals all of a sudden adapting like this, not really, I wouldn't say arrogant, but more so like this mindset of like, we need a guy that's all about the numbers and is going to take orders from the GM's office and, listen to what we say about the lineup and this and that, which I think, to Isaiah's point, though, is probably a reason why I think that people are, in fact, turning the game of baseball off their television sets.
Yeah, which I'll get to that point in a minute, too. But, Chris, what was your thoughts on this firing?
Chris, you're on mute, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised myself. I mean, yeah, you're gonna see firings around baseball, and that happens in other sports after a season. But I was surprised that the Cardinals fired him. You're on that winning streak. You made it to the playoffs, but you just came out short, of advancing. And it could be, a disagreement, and only the numbers tell half the story. You shouldn't really rely on that. So I'm really surprised of it.
All right, so before we get back into that really quick, we do have some breaking news from Jared, who's saying lots of Tennessee fans arrested and ejected for throwing debris on the field after a call doesn't go its way. A golf ball hit Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin.
Ooh.
So
2 words: utter stupidity.
Right. No, I'm right. That's crazy. We knew that Tennessee lost, but I was not expecting Tennessee fans to do that.
Apparently there was like a 15-minute delay because of it, because like there was so many trash thrown on the football field. And also to Jared's point, I did see that Lane Kiffin, who I believe coached at Tennessee one time, I don't know if I'm mistaken or whatever, like apparently he's hated for some reason in Knoxville, but he took a golf ball right to the back, I think, from one of the fans.
This kind of reminds me of, if you guys remember, this was a wild card game several years ago, Braves Cardinals.
The infield fly rule that was not an infield fly.
When that infield fly got called and the fans got mad and kept throwing debris on the field, which, as a Braves fan, I'll tell you, that was a horrible call. That was horrible.
It's still not going to surpass Bottlegate or when the Giants and Eagles fans hurled snowballs at the opposing team and one of them hit a Charger head coach with a battery in the side of the head.
I've heard that.
I don't remember that. When was that?
Oh gosh, like early 2000s.
I want to say like in the 80s. I think
Maybe.
It was a very notorious situation. I think the Chargers were playing either the Giants or the Eagles, and they were hurling snowballs, and a fan threw them with a battery in it, and it hit a Charger assistant coach in the side of the head on the sidelines. They had to call the game off, I think.
Wow, that part I don't remember, but. This stuff, that's utter stupidity when fans start doing all that and throwing trash on the field. This is where the game gets completely out of control and goes crazy because fans, we understand, it's a game. It's fun to watch the games, and we get it, but you don't have to go that far to it, Okay, that is going way too far.
Too
That's
far.
taking the game too serious. But like when we were talking a little bit about MLB, I said one thing that's kind of killing the MLB wise. Number one, analytics.
Yeah.
That's definitely killing the game. And then number two, I don't know if you guys agree with me on this, but you have teams like the Dodgers and Yankees who can go take all this money and they can buy whoever they want and just basically stack their teams. Now, I don't know if you guys necessarily have a problem with this or not, but this is my problem. I think that it needs to be more of a level playing field and actually have a salary cap to where you can't do a luxury tax. So, Callan, do you feel like I'm a little far-fetched on that?
No, I think it's a very fair point, especially when you have people like the Padres, for the first time ever, spending all this money on players like Hosmer, Machado, and Myers, and other guys. Chris, you might want to mute yourself, buddy. Getting some echo from
That's
someone.
either Chris or Isaiah.
Probably Isaiah. But anyway,
Yeah.
Just more so, I think it's, like teams like the Padres have tried to kind of do this thing and, buy, some of these big name guys like a Hosmer or a Machado and things like that. And certainly, I think, Adam, you're spot on, though, because I think, though, that obviously TV rules the roost, I think, with every major sport now, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, hockey, soccer, you name it, that television basically rules the roost. Whether it's local contracts with, Bally Sports or with, whatever it may in fact be. But I do think, though, that it is a very fair point, though, Adam, to your point about maybe that there should be like a tax or like a luxury tax or maybe even some type of a, movable like ceiling or a salary cap, not a hard cap, but a salary cap, certainly. But then, though, at the same time, I think about, the reason why I think that is because of because of one of our guys on this network in Square 4, where you have teams that are pondering moving out, like Oakland, Tampa Bay, playing half their games in Montreal next season, where you have teams like that. There's been some rumblings, guys, that I heard about a year or so ago that the Diamondbacks might be on their way out because they're not happy with Maricopa County and Chase Field. So certainly that there's those three markets that are kind of in a way a little bit up in the air. Certainly Oakland has their issues. Again, Arash Markazi, guys, confirming that the A's are going to be unveiling renderings, I think, for this new Vegas stadium after the World Series concludes, which I think kind of begins that first step of them packing their bags and leaving. Then you have the Rays having their whole ordeal with Montreal right now at this rate, that I think they were allowed to put a banner on. Like they had a banner up, I think, during the ALDS in regards to, that they're going to be in Montreal for half the season, try to get that fan base back up and running. And certainly I do think, though, that sometimes that the big market teams, like just for example, the Dodgers and the Yankees, they sometimes hurt the league that they're playing in because of the money that they drive, but also that they can sometimes, in a way, knock teams right out of their market, because if they're not either drawing well, there's no payroll and stuff like that. But I don't think, though, sadly, Ace, Mr. Bacon and Isaiah, I just don't think that the players or that the league is going to ever put a salary cap on it because that they know there's so much money coming in from local and national television that you can just keep, spend and not have any overdraft fees or interest rates or, credit card checks or whatnot. And that this cycle is just going to keep going. And I think even if there was a lockout next year, no one would budge beyond 2022. But Adam, I think you're right, though, that something should be done, but nothing is going to be done in my mind as time goes on.
No, I definitely agree with you that nothing will probably be done. I'm just looking at teams like Oakland and KC and possibly, like the Texas Rangers stuff that don't have a lot of money. So they can't afford they can't afford all these players like the Dodgers and the Yankees get, who can basically just open up their checkbook and say, here you go, I'm bringing them in. I'll pay you whatever you want. And I can do it because I kind of have the money.
The one thing that scares me, though, Adam, more so is mainly here locally in San Diego is obviously, people are more concerned about AJ Preller perhaps being fired or whatnot, even though that the ownership has already backed him for next season. My biggest concern about if Preller is ever fired after next season or whatnot, my biggest concern is that once he is relieved of his duties and kind of in a way like this whole this talent pool that has come to San Diego, to me, it concerns me a lot because then it would send me back to the 90s when the Padres at one point had Gary Sheffield and Fred McGriff on their roster, and they traded both of those future Hall of Famers away for nobodies. And it was a huge, huge fire sale where the fans here had a mutiny against the Padre organization in the early 90s. But they had McGriff and Bip Roberts and Gary Sheffield. They literally had a guys in Sheffield who had just won the batting title the previous season and led the league in home runs. What do? Shipped him off to Florida for Trevor Hoffman before he was Trevor Hoffman. So that's my only main concern, though, is that if, in fact, the Padres were for some reason did fire Preller, is that they would go back to old habits of trading away Machado, Hosmer, Myers, maybe Tatis Jr. That's just sadly the nature of Padre baseball, is that we would get, guys like that. And then ownership would come in, or a GM would come in and just say, sorry, this is San Diego, small market. Got to trade these guys away. Can't do it.
And we see it in the NFL, though, too. You have a lot of small market teams that it's hard to get certain free agents to go and sign with those teams because of where they are. Jacksonville, and even me being a Green Bay fan, it's always hard to get somebody there, too, because of Green Bay. So
and the weather.
And so it's hard to get all these free agents, and it sucks. I mean, it truly does suck. But, hey, what's up, Mess Around Dave? What's going on?
Yeah, I just thought I'd pop in real quick and say what's going on, guys.
All right, so do you kind of agree with that? I wonder if that's Mess Around. Yeah, Mess Around. Echo.
Am I echoing?
Yeah.
All right.
Technical
difficulties. I just want to say hi.
Technical difficulties. But all right. So Jared Peterson is saying, developing story, Washington State University head coach Nick Rolovich expected to be relieved of his duties due to not being vaccinated. Wow.
Didn't they just win tonight?
But still, because of not being vaccinated. So this is kind of interesting because I know people have different opinions on this about, because we know about the Kyrie Irving situation that's going on with him not being vaccinated. But Chris, what do you think about this move, firing basically the head coach because he's not vaccinated?
That's tough because I know they probably won, and I guess different colleges and states have different rules and all that. So I don't know. I mean, if you didn't follow the protocol, maybe it's the right move, but it's everyone's thought or opinion of what they should do.
All right, Isaiah, do you think this is the right move?
It's tough because I think that like I've been saying with the whole Kyrie thing, you have a choice, right? It's your body, you have a choice, but you have consequences to your choices. So, and I believe there was like a mandate in Washington and Pullman that all state employees have to get vaccinated. So, or else they'll be terminated. And, it's the rule. And, if Rolovich feels that strongly about it, that he's willing to give his career up, because let's face it, guys, I don't think if he gets fired, right? And I think according to Jared, he's going to get fired. I guess he must feel like really strongly about it that he's going to give his career up for this, because I don't know. Like, I really don't know what he's thinking about this. I don't know. I really don't know.
Mess Around, he's back.
Is it better?
Yes.
It is better. It's better.
Okay,
all right.
Good.
So we have time for one final question here. And this question is actually asked to Callan. So, Callan, if you're still here, this question was actually for you. Somebody was asking who you would like to see as your next manager of the Padres.
Though the obvious answer is Bruce Bochy, I don't see it happening. I think Boch is very content with what he's doing with the Giants front office right now. I'm putting my money on Ron Washington, a guy who obviously would be a yes man again from A.J. Preller's Rangers tree, but I think, though, a well-respected guy who I think would probably put his foot down in that clubhouse, which again broke out into severe dysfunction and discord and disdain over the last, right around the trade deadline and down that second half, mountain that it was of that free fall back to grace for the Padres. But I certainly believe it will be Washington. I think gets my vote, though there's a lot of other established names out there. I love Brad Ausmus, but he's wrecked the Tigers. He wrecked the Angels, so I don't really see him being a fit. I know he played and caught for the Padres for a bit in the 90s, but I think he's a great player. But like I say a lot, though, guys, former players don't usually make the best managers, and especially Brad Ausmus, sadly. He's 0 for 2 right now with the Tigers and with the Angels. I think Jeff Bannister is on that list as well. I don't really know, though, about Bannister coming to San Diego. I think that Preller would probably go with more experience in the dugout with Washington, maybe over if it was to come down to Washington and Bannister. I think he would go with Washington. It's also that Ron had gotten the Rangers to the postseason and, of course, to the World Series 2 years or twice in 3 years. I believe I also saw John Farrell and John Gibbons were on the list too, per Bob Nightingale. Certainly guys who I think more so for me, it's a simple answer. It's got to be somebody who has experience and is not going to let this sort of stuff happen in that clubhouse and not be a doormat for Machado, Tatis Jr., Eric Hosmer, Will Myers, like Jace Tingler was. In a way, Tingler, sadly to me, was basically Tyronn Lue in Cleveland. Here's a guy who didn't want to, here's a guy who never wanted to take responsibility for his clubhouse's antics. And he always had Bobby Dickerson, the third base coach and bench coach, handle all the nonsense, with Pham and Kim having their blow up in Chicago in June. Then he had it happen, of course, with the very public video of Tatis and Machado having their shouting match in St. Louis. So I certainly think it has to be a guy with experience and a manager who's not going to let this sort of stuff happen. And I think that my wild card pick, because I was talking to some friends about it last night, is Mike Scioscia. Scioscia is a wild card for me, though I would think he would clash, though, a bit because Scioscia is still, he still lives his catching days by calling pitches for his catchers and not letting them call the games themselves, though. But the simple answer for me, somebody who is not a first-year manager, because you can't have this happen for the third time and honestly, this is going to be AJ Preller's biggest move of his career. Not signing Hosmer, not signing Machado, not giving Tatis that extension. His biggest move of his career is getting the right guy behind, on the top step of the dugout. Not, none of his first-year manager BS. I need someone in San Diego who's going to be here, who has experience, and is not going to take crap from anybody, whether it's the players or the GM, about how the team is going to be run this season. Simple answer, if you ask me.
All right, so for me, I would say that Bruce Bochy would be perfect for you guys. But
I agree. I just don't. I realistically, I just don't think that either his health isn't going to let him do it, or I think he's just totally fine enjoying what he's doing right now in the front office. Though, but believe me, that's the best answer to give in San Diego. We would love it, but I personally just don't see it happening.
All right, so mess around. My final question for you, sir, because you are a Chicago White Sox fan, you had them picked to be in the World Series. What do you think went wrong? Like, honestly.
They ran into a hot Houston Astros team that killed us all season. I had my doubts about it going in. And, they came true. The Houston just hot.
Don't worry, Dave. I picked the White Sox, too.
Come on, mess around. Spill out your true feelings. Just say baseball was corrupt. We all know the Astros are cheating again.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't want to go down that road.
No.
They just outplayed us, plain and simple. They out-hit us. They out-pitched us. Cheating or not, dude, they outplayed us in every way.
Come on. The White Sox ERA for the starters was over 10 in the entire divisional series. That just tells you where the series was won and lost, guys. Right there was pitching.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And mess around. What is your World Series prediction right now?
Red Sox and Braves.
Holding strong on the Atlanta Braves part. Holding strong. I'm holding out hope. All right, Crispy Bacon, this comes to you. We know that you are a Texas Rangers fan. How far do you think you guys are away?
2 years.
Whoa! Wow, that's
bold.
I think they're saying 5 years, but
that would be more realistic.
Talent down there, though, in Arlington. I'll say that much for right now.
No, I agree with you, Callan, but 2 years?
No,
No,
at least 3 to 5 at least, if not maybe 7.
yeah, that's
That sounds more reasonable.
yeah, that's rough. And of course, Isaiah, I've got to bring this up to you. And no, I'm not going to be talking about the Oakland A's. I'm going to be asking you about, that's right, your Philadelphia Phillies, who you said was going to plant their P flag right on our home turf, which they didn't do it. So let me ask you this. What do you think went wrong with your Philadelphia Phillies?
Oh, simple. The hitters didn't show up the final 3 games when they asked for. Oh, we want a series that has major implications. We want a series against the Braves with all the marbles on the line, and they got their wish, and they didn't show up. $330 million down the drain. JT Realmuto, I don't even know how much he's making. I think he's making like $100 million. Another 100 down the drain. Rhys Hoskins, I think he's making like, I would say 90 million down the drain. The Phillies wasted $600 million this season because these guys get paid so much money. They asked for it and they didn't show up. All of those guys better be getting pink slips out of Philadelphia.
And here you thought the Padres overpaid for Tatis Jr., who's the face of baseball. Give me a break.
And they overpaid for Bryce Harper. I'm telling you, Isaiah, the Phillies overpaid Bryce Harper. That's all I'm saying.
You know we're getting Corey Seager in the offseason, right?
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
Overhyped.
Mess around, Dave. Don't worry, buddy. They're bringing it home tomorrow. I have
Sky,
faith.
that's right.
They're bringing it home. But, Isaiah, what's your World Series predictions?
As of right now, wow. I'm going to go with Dodgers and Red Sox. I don't think the Astros have enough pitching to combat the Red Sox great lineup. I think the Dodgers will bounce back. I think they'll be fine. And I think it's going to be Dodgers and Red Sox rematch of the, I want to say 2016 World Series?
2018.
2018 World Series, yes. Rematch of the 2018 World Series. And
Isaiah loses again.
I think LA gets revenge.
Yeah, and that's right, Callan. I forgot to ask you what your World Series predictions were.
Anybody but the Dodgers. Simple as that.
Yes.
I'm right there with you. I am right there with you. I hope that we can pull it off this year. We're kind of banged up right now. We have too many of our top tier guys out. But
come on, Atlanta. You have not won a World Series since I was a year old. Come on, baby. Let's go.
We're trying. We pulled off game 1 today.
Make me feel old.
Game 2's tomorrow. Hopefully we can do that. Scherzer's going to be on the mound tomorrow for them. Ian Anderson's going to be on the mound for us. So I think it's going to be another fantastic pitchers duel.
Certainly, I think they'll get in game 1, and I think Brian Anderson and Jeff Francoeur and Ron Darling said it best. The Braves basically had to win this game. Now they have the momentum. If they go to LA split, I think that they would probably feel okay with that.
Yeah, but if we can pull off the game tomorrow, that would be a big momentum
Big time boost.
going into LA. That would be huge at that point. But that brings us to the end of the show, so we're going to go ahead and collect everybody's final thoughts. So, Callan, I'll start with you. Final thoughts.
Thanks for letting me hop on for a bit, talk some WNBA hoops and some baseball, and look forward to seeing you guys sometime in the not-too-distant future. I don't know when that's going to be again.
All right. Well, just let us know. We look forward to having you back and seeing you on again. And whenever you have a chance, just reach out to me. If we have Sports Minute going on, hop on. We'll
Sure
talk
thing.
with you. All right. And then mess around, Dave. Any final thoughts?
I'm looking forward to that Green Bay Chicago game tomorrow. It's too bad I can't make it over to watch it together.
Right. And then Crispy Bacon, final thoughts.
Good show tonight. Glad for the interaction, and make sure to tune in to Coach for great shows.
All right. Isaiah.
Final thoughts is it was a great show. Thank you to all the fans for tuning in. Looking forward to the big Monday Coast to Coast MI6 collaborated NBA preview special. You're going to hear all of our amazing predictions that we have on that show. So make sure you guys tune in for that. And I would say kudos to that Tennessee chancellor for putting out a great statement after the game to really condemn Ace. If we could pull it up, that would be great. But I think Jared Jared was the one that put it up, but kudos to her for putting up a statement and really nipping this in the bud and just, calming the flames down.
Basically, the chancellor stated, "I am astonished and sickened by the behavior of some of Vol fans at the end of tonight's game. Good sportsmanship must be part of who we are as volunteers." And you know what? I completely agree with that. And sportsmanship was not shown tonight at all.
Nope.
Sickening to definitely see that. And let's not forget, before we hop off here, Isaiah made a bold prediction that he said the Lakers are going to win 70-plus games this season. And I was like, okay, that's just not going to happen. So
I thought what goes on in the group chat stays in the group chat. Like what goes on in Vegas
I mean, they may
stays
lose
in
70
Vegas.
plus games. They're still not going to win 70 games this year.
that was your prediction there,
And this
Isaiah.
isn't Vegas, Isaiah.
That was your prediction. But thank you for watching. Tomorrow, don't forget to check out the morning tailgate. And then tomorrow night, we have another episode of Between the Ropes. We look forward to seeing you there. Everybody have a fantastic night. And we'll see you on Wednesday for another episode of Sports Minute.